Hey guys, this is the supplemental lesson that follows 5.2. This is where we're getting and doing our exponential equations with a little more depth because the textbook isn't quite go into it as deep as we need them to. Okay. First, some vocabulary for exponential growth and decay. Okay, exponential functions are written in the form f of x equals, okay, so here's this formula that we use when we're doing compound interest. It's also the formula we use when there's a percent involved. And then this is the simplified version of exponential functions, and a number times another number to the x power. Okay. A represents, on the graph, it would represent the y-intercept, and in the context of the situation, it's going to be the number that you start with. Okay, so whatever comes after the equal sign, that's what you started with, how many you started with. B represents your growth or decay factor. It's the number you multiply by each time. Okay. B is the same thing as either 1 plus or minus the r, depending on whether we're talking about growth or decay. Growth would be plus, decay would be minus. R represents your rate as a percent, and when we're given the percent, we convert it to a decimal. Today we're going to find the decimal and we're going to convert it back to the percent. Growth means that your data is increasing. It means that your B value is greater than 1, or that you're doing 1 plus R in the parentheses. Decay would mean that you are decreasing. Your data is decreasing. It means that your B value is less than 1. And it means that you're doing 1 take away R, 1 minus R. Okay, what's a growth or decay factor? It's your B. It's what you multiply by. I know we covered that up here, but I put it on as a separate vocabulary word so that you could find it more easily than looking for it up here in the definitions. And it's pretty important that you understand the difference between a growth and decay factor and a growth and decay rate. That's pretty critical. Okay, the growth or decay rate, that's your R, and it's a percent. Okay, now I want to focus on the factor and the rate for a second. Okay, let's say I have an equation of f of x equals 3 times 1.25 to the x power. Okay, the B is this number, 1.25. Okay, R, I can't see R exactly in the equation, but I know that it comes from 1 plus R. Okay, so how do I know it's plus? Because this is a growth function. How do I know it's growth? Because B is greater than 1. So it's 1 plus R equals 1.25. So 1 plus what would give me 1.25? R would equal 0.25. Okay, and then we're going to convert that to a percent, move it over 2 times. So that would be a 25% growth. Okay, let's practice that again. All right, with a different equation. Okay, let's say this was my equation. All right, now this is my B. And because it's decay, that means 1 minus R. Okay, so 1 take away what would give me 0.78. Guys, a good way of the easiest way to figure that out is, I think we can all agree that 5 take away 3 equals 2. But I could switch these and it would still be true. 5 take away 2 equals 3. All right, so 1 take away R equals 0.78. But I can switch these and say 1 take away 0.78 equals R. So R equals 0.22, which is 22 Okay, so that's a growth and a decay. One more. Okay, all right, I've got my B is 2.5. So it's got to be growth because that's greater than 1. So R, let's see, 1 plus R equals 2.5. So R has to be 1.5, which is 150%. So put a 0 in, moving your decimal over 2 places when you don't have a digit to move around. Okay, so let's apply that. And I'll be honest, guys, that's the thing that kids get wrong the most, is figuring out the difference between factor and rate and like actually calculating it, especially for decay. So if it were me, I might rewatch this slide on the video once or twice, just to make sure you really understand how did I find the percent, especially the decay one. Okay, the city of Corning started the holiday event called Sparkle on the first Saturday in December every year. The growth of the event is modeled with the equation f of x equals 300 times 1.12 to the x power. So what is the y-intercept? Well, remember the y-intercept is a. So it's 300. That represents 300 people coming to the very first Sparkle. Is the data showing growth or decay? Well, we have a b value greater than 1, so it's growth. And it kind of said growth in the problem too. So we have a b value greater than 1, that's showing growth. So that means that we can calculate the growth factor and the growth rate. Okay, growth factor is your b value. Okay, your b value is 1.12. Your growth rate, remember, let me turn that off. Your growth rate is 1 plus for growth R equals 1.12. So R equals 0.12, which is 12%. Okay. All right, a new species of plant is killing off cattails in swampy areas of the northeast USA. A scientist collected data in one swampy region, and his data modeled the function P of t equals 3,500 times 0.85 to the x power. What is the y-intercept? Y-intercept is A. 3,500. What does that mean in the context of the problem? That means when he started his study, there were 3,500 cattails in the swamp. Is this data showing growth or decay? Well, context of the problem said killing off, so that's going to hint at decay. But our equation also has an b value, okay, that is less than 1. So that's decay. How do you know? Where are you? So B is less than 1. So we're going to have a decay factor and a decay rate. The decay factor, remember, is as simple as going into your equation and finding your B. That's 0.85. Which I typed in, and I don't need to handwrite. Okay. Decay rate. Remember, decay rate, 1 minus, because it's decay, R equals 0.85. But, easier to switch it, 1 minus 0.85 equals R. R equals 0.15. Move the decimal over 2 times. 15% decay rate. Okay? All right, let's say we don't have a formula. Let's say we have data instead, and we're supposed to write an equation. So the two things we need to know are the A and the B. So A is your y-intercept, and you can always tell the y-intercept because it's what's across from 0. So that's 8. Okay. Is this data showing growth or decay? Where is it? Well, it's showing growth. How do I know? Because the price of the stock is increasing. Okay, we're going 8, then 12, then 18, then 27. Okay, so we're talking about a growth factor and a growth rate. All right, so we also need a B, or we need our growth factor. And the first thing to try is to go up to the table and say, all right, 8 times what would give me 12? Well, that's not going to be a whole number, okay? So if it's not going to be a whole number, that's not going to be something we're going to do in our head, probably. So then, instead, we're going to go backwards with division. And we're going to say, what's 12 divided by 8? And it equals 1.5. So 1.5 is my B. Okay, so times 1.5. Is my factor. My rate, remember, if it's growth, it's 1 plus R equals 1.5. So R equals 0.5. Move the decimal over 2 times, and I get 50%. One more problem we're going to do here in the video, and then we'll be done for today. Okay, now we're going to look at a price of a different stock. All right, what is the y-intercept? Again, we're looking across from 0. 0 does not have to be at the top of the chart. Okay, and so that's our A, $90.25. Oh, I forgot to put the exponent of x here. That's a really easy thing to leave off because you don't have to figure it out. You just have to remember to write it. Times. Okay, is this data showing growth or decay? Well, the price of stock is going down. So it is showing decay. How do you know? The price of the stock is decreasing. Okay, so what is the decay factor and decay rate? Here again, if I want to find B, I'm asking myself 100 times what would give me 95? Well, it's not something we're going to do in our head. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you can do them in your head. So I'm not going to do this one in my head. Okay. I'm going to work backwards and divide. 95 divided by 100 equals 0.95. All right, did I have to pick the top 2 rows? Nope. You can pick any 2 rows and divide backwards. Okay, so my B is 0.95 to the x power. Don't forget to put that exponent. My rate, since this is decay, it's 1 minus R equals 0.95. And then these two can switch places. 1 minus 0.95 equals R. R equals 0.05. Move the decimal over 2 times. And my rate is 5%. I keep forgetting I typed this out and I start handwriting it. Okay, I hope this video is helpful, and I'll see you next time.